Okay, hello everyone. So we'll get to the lesson 2, 3, and 4. So we'll be finishing the module 11 in this 45 minutes, hopefully. I think it will be faster than that. So yeah, so first the role-based access control, right? So we generally touch, so most of the stuff here we generally touched in previous sessions actually. So even though we didn't do any settings, still you saw the panels and everything, right? You know how everything here should be familiar with you at this moment, at least the UI, right? Okay, let me click the next slide. So we'll be talking about the concepts, roles, administrator permissions, assignment, and definition for the role-based access control. So managing the access to resources in Azure is a very important part of any company security and the compliance requirements. The role-based access control is the capability for any IT admin to grant a appropriate access permissions to any Azure AD user, groups, or services. The role-based access control is configured by selecting a role, right? So definition is what actions are allowed and or denied. Then associating that role with a user, group, or service principal. So finally, this combination of role and the that matters user, groups, or service principal is scoped to either the entire subscription, a resource group, or a specific resource within a resource group. That's the anarchy you see here, right? So user and groups are sourced from the Azure Active Directory, which is commonly populated with credentials from on-premise directory, uh, like uh, like your on-prem AD, or from federated, or from even a third party. Sorry, not third party, from a different directory or another Office 365 account or another Azure AD, right? It's the same. Okay. So that's the how you assign, right? You go to any of the, for example, here is a resource group, right? So you go to the access control panel, you click add, right? You can add. Uh, for this, I have to say the UI is quite changed now, so it might not be exact like what you saw here, right? So a role collection is the uh, a number of actions that can be performed on the Azure resource. So a user can perform an action on a Azure resource if they have been assigned a role that contains that action. There are many building roles, of course. So three of the most common ones are the owner, contributor, and reader, right? You can treat as viewer as well. So you can use the Azure portal to make your own role assignment as well. So in example here, uh, the uh, the resource group show on the access control blade the current role roles and scopes. You can add or remove roles as you need. You can also add sync user groups to Azure roles, which enables your company to centralize the granting of access. So with this, actually, let me see if we need to skip select to the next slide. So yeah, we can no. So let's switch to demo. Let's, so let's go to here, right? Select any resource, right? So under the access control, there is a resource assignment. You see the UI is quite different. Actually, the whole port of Azure has changed again for the past week, I have to say, past or 2 weeks. I don't know to remember the specific time, but it's changed anyway. So this layout is here, right? But you want the old panel is still here, right? Okay, so let's go back to here, the X control, right? So we can add role assignment, right? From here, and you can click the role, which role you want. So owner, contributor, reader, that's three most important one, and blah, 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 blah. There's, like 30, 40 of them there. And you select Azure AD user group or user assigned managed identity, have service or anything. So from here, generally we select the Azure AD user, right? So you can choose from your existing directory, right? And you just click save, and that will be done. Okay, there's that. So that's how you assign a role. So I didn't really assign because it's quite easy to be honest. So there's no really that point. And you can also assign in the in the resource, particular resource, for example, for this virtual machine, you can also add. And remember, we introduced the log, right? There's the resource log. So logs, yeah. So where we can add and lock and prevent this to be deleted, right? But there's people with permission that can remove the lock as well. So the owner, they can do that, right? So so I apologize everyone. So there is actually an emergency just happened at home. So this again, I have to say 20 hours later, 24 hours later, where I left off. So I don't remember exactly where I left off. So I was just gonna talk from this page. So hope for your understanding. So it was an emergency as well. So yeah, we talk about the administration permissions, right? So using the Azure AD, you can designate or delegate separate administrators to, serve different functions. The admin can be designated in Azure AD portal to perform tasks such as adding or changing user, assigning roles, resetting password, managing license and domain names, etc., etc. So the same for other, if you see Office 365, it works the same, right? I can set some person to have the password admin and someone to be the Exchange admin, someone to be the SharePoint admin. And for Teams, actually, we have 4 levels of admins, right? The support engineer, support specialist, communication engineer, and the service admin, right? So you have different roles you can delegate. But again, this is not really for Office 365. This is on the Azure level, right? It's on the Azure level, not Office 365. Okay. And the global admin, so by default, has access to all the features of any access. The person who signed up for the Azure subscription is actually the one that will be the global admin for this directory, right? And only the global admin can assign other administrator roles. So you can see and manage all the permissions of the admin roles in the Azure Active Directory portal, where you viewing a role's members, you can see the complete list of permissions granted by the role assignment. So this includes links to relevant documentation to help you through managing the directory. Okay. And the role assignment, so we have the typical user groups service principle. So I don't think I have to explain this too much, right? The user is just the new users, right? But the user, to be clear, so they will be listed as the members as well. So if you go to the Azure Active Directory, so if you click user, all users, right? So they will say as members or guest, right? So they only have these two, right? They are called users, no problem, but their user type is this one, and you cannot change the user type for them, I'm afraid. So, but again, you can view their source. So this is very important, right? So I actually write a whole article, a blog, Chinese blog about this. So there's an Azure Active Directory, there's a Microsoft account, external Azure Active Directory, you have the synced, you have federated, right? You have all those, I think it's 5 types in total, right? Of source in here, right? Okay, that's that. And you can, yeah, here's the role definition in the JSON file. So each role is a set of properties defining a JSON file. So the role definition includes names, ID, description, so also include their permissions, so what they can do and cannot do, and also the scopes like read access, etc., etc. So for example, in this here we saw the owner, right? It's in bold letters. So the owner rule means that all actions are allowed or denied actions, and the all / scope. This information is available with the if you use PowerShell to get that. And the action, no action properties can be tailored to grant and deny exact permissions you need. Review this table to see how owners, contributors, and readers are defined. Right here, that's how their actions are defined. And you can scope your roles. So defining the actions and no actions properties is not enough fully to provision the role. You must also properly scope your role. So the assign scope property of the role specify the scope. So either subscription, resource group, or resource within which the custom role is available for assignment. You can make the custom role available for assignment in only the subscription or resource group that requires it, and not entirely the user experience for the rest of the subscription or resource. Okay, so now we just go to the users and groups, right, for lesson 3. Okay, here we talk about all of this, and we'll do a demonstration for users and groups. And this is fairly easy, right? So user account, right? We introduced this. You have guest, you have member, right? You have source, whether they're from the cloud state directory synchronization guest, and actually there are so much more, right? I think there are five in total. Just remember there are five in total. Okay. And this UI again, it's quite old, I have to say. So not exactly what you have seen now if you're listening to this lesson. And adding a user. So for this, I have to say, so don't exactly follow the PowerShell scripting here. So if you want to provision the user, let's say, it's better you just find any Microsoft documentation, right? The docs.microsoft.com, find their latest and PowerShell command to do. Because something I find with the provided PowerPoint is some of the PowerShell command don't really exactly work the way it is, right? You have to, for example, you can see here, so I don't know why this changed to the Chinese character, right? It should be English character for this, right? But it's all of a sudden it's changed. So if you run this, sometimes you run into problems, and this particular thing can take your time to troubleshoot. So don't just follow the one in here. So just finding Microsoft Docs on how to add a user account, right? So again, this is what we've done from the UI and how done from the portal. But here's actually the interesting thoughts. So we all know you can add a user account in the Office 365, right? So when you add a user in there, of course it will be provisioned in the Azure AD, right? No problem there, right? But if you add a user, do you see that the user in Office 365? So I got asked questions on this, right? So this is an interesting question actually. I want to pose to you guys, right? What do you thought? Do you think it's worse vice versa, right? So it's quite interesting because Azure is the infrastructure as a service, right? Office 365 is built on that. So when you provision one, of course, will be in here, but in Azure as well. But if you create one in Azure, can you see that as an active user in Office 365 without license? Right, that's an interesting question actually. So yeah, moving on. So bulk user accounts. Of course, you always provide a CSV file like you do in Office 365, right? Just a CSV file. First, you have to specify the format. I will post the link on that as well, and you can provision all the users. Okay, and create a user. Now you can create a group, right? You can use again uh, the UI or the command prompt. And but I have to say something, right? So here is the just for production environment in groups. If we go to groups, it's quite different than the UI now because you have some new policies you might notice here. So there are general, expiration, and naming policy, right? So this actually is for particularly target the teams, right? So target the Office 5 groups, where you can specify their when will they expire and the naming policy when you user create a team. And for this, it gives some extra information. So the naming policy only works for users. There are admins, right, in your Office 365 that you have, I think, a dozen admins, the admin roles. There are four roles that will be exempt from this. So global admin, service admin, and I forgot the two others. But when they create a team, right, they don't see the policy. So when you're testing this out for, other purpose, whatever, you may notice, hey, I said the policy, why it doesn't work? Because maybe you're using one of the admins, right? If you switch to the user, you will notice that works. But again, this is not really showing in our PowerPoint, right? Okay. So yeah, and you can add members into this group. Of course, it doesn't talk about dynamic, right? There are also ways you can create a dynamic group, and they will be adding user based on that attributes. Okay, and adding a group owner, right? So now actually do the demo for this. So let me open my here. So, oops, no, what's wrong with the PowerPoint all of a sudden? So let's go to the, why do I use PowerPoint? My bad. So it should be in the UI, right? Some reason. So you all know how to do this where the UI is fairly simple, right? Just add a group, give it a name, some attributes, and you can do it. Right? A group definition, membership, etc., etc. So what I demonstrate is let's create the users, for example, using the PowerShell, right? Cloud Shell, my bad. Oh, I haven't connected VPN, so this my oops. And my VPN is not working, I forgot. So let's see if this actually pops up, all right? So hopefully it will, fingers crossed. Okay, I guess it's not working. Oh, what do you know? Start working. Come on. Meanwhile, just let me get the command ready. All right. So I have this one here. Right. So this is how we do the user, right? The password. Let me. So this user is already there. So let me give it a new name, right? Let's call it typical John Doe, right? John. So let's change this to John. And this actually you don't have to use any, you can use any email address. It's fine, right? Any email address is fine. Okay. So I'm gonna code it's JD John D actually. So that's all good, I think. Alrighty, roll. So let's just copy and paste. Okay. All right, so if I now refresh, yeah, John Doe is here now. See, simple as that. So it's a member. And let's demonstrate how to create a group, shall we? So we copy this one here. Let me show the, where's my, okay, so this is how you create a group. So give it a new, yeah, let's call the same name. It's okay. So let's call this John Doe JD. And, well, that's it. So let me copy this two first. All right, move this here. Oh, I should be a new group. I already have that group, right? So, more than okay, display name my group, please. You see, so my bad. So let's give the new name, right? So let's call it my demo group, my group demo one. Okay. Oh, I didn't copy the whole thing. Shit. Yeah, the new is not there, right? Okay. So let me close out this. Still, there's a little lagging. My demo group. Oh, I didn't change it here. My bad. My demo group one. Okay, so if we now run this command to retrieve the group membership, we should be getting John Doe there. Yeah, display name John Doe. So here you go. And there's also other useful commands, right? So, for example, we can list all the, but this is for the previous slide actually, for the role definitions, right? So let me just clear all this first. Right, you can list all the role definition. Everything will be listed, right? And the destination, description of that. And you can get all the actions of a role, right? For example, let's get the action of owner, right? So what owners can do, the action, no action, action is everything, no action is nothing, right? And we can also get the, let's see, the list role assignment for a resource group. Let's see, my lab resource group, right? So here I have, let's scroll up, my own name, right? This one, external account. It's a user. Do I have an owner? I should have a contributor somewhere. Yeah, this is, oops, where's a reader, right? This one is a reader from a demo account, and this is a contributor, etc., etc., right? You can read all the information from here. Okay. All right, so let's switch back to PowerPoint. Okay, so now we talk about Azure policy, right? So up until now, so everything before should be familiar to you because we browsed into almost everything in previous modules. But Azure policy is something we didn't touch, right? So we'll talk about the what is Azure policy, implementing Azure policy, policy definitions, initiative definition, right? And determine the compliance. So Azure policy is we call the service in Azure where you can use to create, assign, and manage your policies. So these policies enforce different roles over your resources. So those resource stays compliant with your corporate standards and service level agreement. Azure policy does this by running evaluations of your resource and scanning for those resources who are not compliant or which are not compliant with the policies you have defined, right? The main advantage of resource are in the areas enforcement and compliance, scaling, and remediation. Okay. Sorry about that. I just paused because my wife called for a towel. She's get off the shower. So my apology. So yeah, so the advantage here is the enforcement, compliance, apply policy in scale, and the remediation, right? What it's mean by enforcement compliance, right? So to turn on the building policies or build custom ones for all the resource types, then real-time policy evaluation and enforcement, and periodic and on-demand compliance evaluation. So that's what it means. And apply policy at scale. The apply policy to management groups with control across your entire organization. You can apply multiple policies and aggregate policy states with policy initiative. And you can define the exclusion scope as well. And remediation is a real-time remediation and the remediation on existing resources. So the Azure policy will be important to you if your team, let's say, turns on environment where you need to, say, you need to oversight or monitor the multiple engineering team. So, and the other one is you have multiple subscription, let's say, or you need to standardize how cloud resources are configured and also manage the regulatory compliance, cost control, security, and design consistency, for example. Okay. And implementing the Azure policy, I don't know what's happened to PowerPoint. It's always lagging now. Right. So there's 4 steps, right? Browse policy definitions. So a policy definition express the what to evaluate and what actions to take. And each policy definition has conditions under which it's enforced, and it has the accompanying effect that takes place if the conditions are met. For example, you could prevent VMs from being deployed if they are exposed to a public IP address, right? So actually, I get a number of warnings that by default like that. And second, create initiative definitions. So initiative definition is a set of policy definitions to help track your compliance state for a larger goal. For example, ensuring a branch office is compliant, right? Same as you are deploying a read-only domain controller somewhere, right? Scope initiative definition, you can limit the scope of the initiative definitions to management groups, subscriptions, or resource groups. And last one, will the evaluation result, right? You once the initiative definition is assigned, you can evaluate the state of compliance for all your resources. Individual resource groups, and the subscription within a spoke can be exempted from having policy rules affected. So exclusions are handled individually for each assignment, right? Okay, so even if you only have a few policy definitions, we recommend to create a initiative definition, right? It's not, there's no we, just I. I recommend, not we recommend. I have this strange thing when I'm doing training, right? So policy definitions, right? So there are many building policy definitions for you to choose from. So sorting by category will help you to locate what you need. For example, the allowed virtual machine SKUs enable you to specify a set of virtual machine SKUs that your organization can deploy. So I previously did a video on one of the warnings when you create a virtual machines, right? There's a warning like your organization did not allow you to do so, right? And the allow locations policy enables you to restrict the location that your organizations can specify when deploying resources. Those can be used to enforce your geo compliance requirements. So similar to the Office 365 multi-geo feature. So if you don't see what you need, you can add a policy definition. This easiest way to do this is to import a policy from GitHub. So now any new policy definitions are added almost every day. And also the policy definition have a specific JSON format. So as an admin, if you're doing anything in Azure admin, right, you will not need to create files in this format, but you may want to take a look so you are familiar. So review and available definitions in Portal and in GitHub, right? I will post a link for that as well. And create the initiative definition. Group policy definition include one or more policies and requires planning. So once you have determined which policy definition you need, you create the definition. So this definition will include one or more policies. There is a pick list on the UI of the new initiative definition page to make your selections. And after that, you scope the definition, right? So once you're great, you can assign a definition to establish its scope. Scope determines what resource or grouping of the resource the policy assignment gets enforced on. So currently, an initial definition can have up to 100 policy, right? Some numbers. And determine the compliance. So once your policy is in the place, you can use the compliance blade to review the non-compliant ones and the non-compliant policy and the non-compliant resource. So when condition is evaluated against your existing resource and found true, then those resources are marked as non-compliant with the policy. Also, you don't see the evaluation logic in Azure portal, the compliance state results are shown. So the compliant state result is either compliant or non-compliant, right? So policy evaluation happens about once an hour, which means that if you make changes to your policy definition and create a policy assignment, then it will be re-evaluated over your resource within an hour. Okay, so let's actually switch to the page. Right, let me close this and go to here. It's policy. So for here, it's called Azure policy, right? But what you do is you just search for a policy, right? So you search for policy, and this is the one, okay, with this logo here. That's the policy you are having. Okay, you can see here I have a number of non-compliant ones, right? Within this scope, right? Remember, scope is my subscription here, right? My entire subscription, right? So let's click into this actually to find out more. Again, without VPN, it's kind of slow. So non-compliant. Okay, see, there are so many. And its the reason is okay, didn't have system update. Vulnerability in security configuration. Your machine should be immediate adaptive application as find any actually useful one, right? Okay, ports should be closed. Oh, management ports should be closed on your virtual machine. Let's see what's that about. Okay, yeah, so I have 4 machines listed here, right? With this, well, the management ports should be closed on your virtual machine, right? Okay, so I guess that's the port issue. I don't think even for last 30 days, because those machines haven't touched for a long time. I think almost 2 months, right? Almost 2 months. Okay, last evaluated, it's an hour ago, right? Not an hour ago, 20 minutes ago actually. So let me click into my mail server. Overman ports are exposed to worm to a high level risks internet facing these attacks attempt to I never know what they say. Okay, where is that? Okay, let's copy to read the entire thing, right? Okay, attempt to for credential get enemy access to the machine. As I guess I turned a lot of ports on for this one, right? So I have to what I need to do is just to close one of those sync ports for that one. So if I go to the actual virtual machine for mail, right? So networking, you can see what I'm doing. Allow all inbound, inbound, right? So ports, pretty much any, right? 1, 2. So I think this one caused the issue, right? So this one caused the issue. Okay, I don't think the other one matters because I don't need SSH, but I do need RDP for this, or I don't need RDP because it's the Exchange server. I turn it on, I can access via HTTPS, right? I can access that because I have got essentially a public IP address for that as well. Okay, so that's that. And the policy you need to do is, okay, where is that? Okay, assignment, create a definition here. So it should be listed a number of definitions. right? All this one are building, right? I didn't create any of this. To be honest, I didn't create any so far for this one. Yeah, there's a lot, right? We don't have to browse that. So we can choose category from, let's see, one for network and Kubernetes. No, thank you. See, that's one, right? There's a number of you can have that should be enabled, right? You can assign that to scope. So I only have one, right? That's the only subscription I have, but I do have a number of resource groups, right? Let's say using recovery. Select exclusion, I don't exclude any. Okay, enable this, assigned by me, and mediation, create a measure, no thank you, and create. Oh, location, sorry, my bad. Oh, I think most are in Japan East for mine, so I select Japan East. All right. Okay, has been created. Simple as that, right? So assignment, okay, assign initiative. We just assign it, right? So sorry. Okay. Okay, can cross this one, blah, blah, blah. SQL Server. Okay, I think this is quite useful for me. The exclusion, again, this one. Parameters, audit, okay. All right. So here we go. There's how you create those policy, right? So I actually have two duplicate ones here for previous demos, right? We have not now joined to a specific domains, right? So I do have this one enabled. Okay. All right. So I think that's uh, about it. So that's for module 11, end of module 11, right? And so next week there will be no videos upload because we'll be on vacation for a whole week, so 9 days. So after that we'll be back, and my subscription will pretty much end for this one for sure. So when I finish module 12, probably I will use another one, like a trial one for $200 per month. All right, so well, that's it. Thanks for listening to this.